past Pasalutra. We saw it in Southeast Pass, new oiling from yesterday. Went back to Pasalutra where heavy oil was first there over 2 weeks ago. We continue to see not only the continued presence of heavy oil. Billy's going to talk a little bit about some of the work that's been done there since yet. Still, despite that work, there's still heavy oil there. We can also see the discoloration of the cane of the grass out there, and an area that should be teeming with life, with marine life, with insects, with bugs, was literally still. You could hear the sounds, you could smell the fumes from the oil, you could see the discoloration of the grass. It was obvious that this marshland has been damaged, has been stressed. One more example why it's so important for us to fight the soil on a barrier island outside of our marshes. We don't want the soil getting into our wetlands. This is literally the Gulf's nursery. This is where the young should be coming back to reproduce, to help repopulate the Gulf. Now, yesterday we sat at the meeting for some hours with Admiral Allen, and let me give you, again, just an update on where we are with our plan to dredge these barrier islands, to help fortify these barrier islands, to fight this oil out on a sand boom instead of inside our wetlands. As many of you know, weeks ago we proposed 24 different permits. And if we had gotten approval when we first suggested those permits, we could have built 10 miles of 60-high berm already. We could have gotten approval over 3 weeks ago. Instead, after a couple of weeks, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers approved 6 permits. They said the benefits would outweigh the negative consequences environmentally of building those in those 6 areas a little over 40 miles. They consulted a wide number of federal agencies, state agencies to come to that decision. And even after that, the Coast Guard only requires BP to pay to implement one of those berms, one of those sand dredging projects. That's been almost a week ago. As of today, BP still hasn't moved on that single project. And let me be very clear today. We have said to BP, do one of 2 things. Either sign the contracts to move the dredge to get this work started, or if you're not willing to do this, write us the check and get out of the way. We'll get it done. So my message to BP is either do this, get this work moving, or just get out of the way and let us do it ourselves. Our message to our federal governments, we want their help in holding BP accountable. BP by law is the responsible party, but they're not acting responsibly. We need the federal government to hold them responsible. We also want the federal government to go ahead and move forward at the very least on our 5 other approved permits. Now again, these entire 6 projects were approved by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. By the way, sand booming is a part of our Coast Guard approved plan. The ACP, the plan before this spill, as a part of a response to the oil spill, sand booms, sand berms are a part of that approved plan. So you've got the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers consulting with other federal agencies saying that this makes sense. You've got the Coast Guard saying this is part of our pre-approved plan. There's no reason at all our federal government shouldn't be telling BP not only to move forward on that first project, but at the very least, go ahead and fund those other 5 projects as well. Again, if they had approved this 3 weeks ago when we first approached them, we would have had already over 10 miles of sand dunes already built. You know, we were told again last Friday, we met with the president. He told us to give him 2 to 3 days. We had that meeting yesterday. There was nothing I heard. Let me say it this way, every single thing I heard made me even more convinced that the right thing for us to do is to fight the soil on our sand. We had panels of academics, of different government officials. Now, let me tell you some of the things we heard. We heard, well, we should just give them a chance to more effectively deploy boom. But now they know better how to deploy boom. Maybe they've become complacent. There's not a person in the state of Louisiana that believes that either they have enough boom or they will deploy enough of it to keep the soil out of our wetlands. We have over 140 miles of our wetlands that are oiled already as of today. That number continues to increase. Secondly, we heard, well, that you could have challenges fighting the soil on the sand. That would be a great problem to have. I don't want any of the soil on my coastline. I'd much rather fight the soil on the sand rather than in our wetlands. One of the points we made was that we know we're going to be dealing with soil for weeks, for months. Some experts say maybe even years. Even if they're successful with their latest attempt at a containment structure, even if they're successful, we know there's enough oil out there. We are very concerned about subsurface oil. We know there's enough oil out there that we will continue to see waves of oil coming into our wetlands, coming into our coastline, having the kinds of impacts of what we've seen today. And let me just